Welcome back to the channel, boys. Fabulinski's coming at your neck with this The Path of Burning Steps build. Now with this build, we're going to utilize the brand new exotic to Season of the Splicer, The Path of Burning Steps. This exotic pretty much boosts everything you do that's solar damage. So as long as you're doing solar damage, you're going to get increased weapon damage. But I have some other mods and stuff that are going to further increase that. We got some ability spam, some extra weapon damage on top of what the exotic already provides to us. And we got some super spam. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So for my subclass of choice, we're using one of my favorite subclasses in the game, Bottom Tree Sunbreaker. Now for this exotic to work, you do not have to use a solar subclass, although it's heavily encouraged because of the way the exotic works, but you don't have to use it. You can use whatever subclass you want. As long as you have some type of solar damage, the exotic will work. But I'm gonna make this build just straight solar everything. So we're gonna use Bottom Tree Sunbreaker for these sunspots and everything else that comes with Bottom Tree Sunbreaker. You guys already know what it does. It is an absolutely amazing subclass. Now as for my loadout, we're gonna use a succession. We got Reconstruction Warp Weapon. You guys already seen this gun before. I absolutely love this sniper. It's fantastic. Now for my exotic weapon of choice, we're going to utilize Sunshot. Now I feel like this is a kind of interesting option. Of course, there's a couple of other options you can choose, like Heir Apparent, maybe even Xenophage, although I feel like that's more of a boss killer. But we're going to utilize the hand cannon Sunshot because it has explosive rounds. It's almost like Dragonfly or Firefly, but you don't have to land precision shots. It's literally just as long as you kill the target with the weapon, they blow up, and it's like all these chain reactions. Now I don't have the catalyst finished, but what the catalyst does is it gives it increased range and stability. Also allows it to generate orbs of power. So you don't necessarily have to have the catalyst for this build to work, but it is definitely nice to have it. And for my heavy weapon of choice, using Cold Duello, Auto-Loading Cluster Bomb. Now if you guys notice, both my weapons are solar damage. Because of the way this exotic work, I want to have as much solar damage as possible. Moving on to my stats, we got 33 mobility, we got 65 resilience. I feel like this is a nice middle ground for my resilience. My class ability cooldown is on a 28-second cooldown. Now we have 51 recovery, but since I'm using Bottom Tree Sunbreaker, as long as I'm getting ability kills, I'm gonna get health in return. So having 51 recovery is kind of nice, I guess. I'll take it. Now we have 101 discipline. Now this is very important because I'm going to utilize a lot of grenades with this build, which is how I'm going to get my build to get started. Although there's a bunch of other ways for it to get started, but grenades is one of the main ways. Now we have 41 intellect. I have on Font of Wisdom, which is going to give me I think it's plus 50 intellect whenever I do pick up an elemental well. So this is going to be pretty much like 91 as opposed to 41, but we'll just say it's 41 for right now. And we have 44 strength. Now moving on to my mods, I'll start with the helmet here. We got a discipline mod. Now we're running double ashes to assets. Now this is actually on the seasonal artifact, which is why it only costs 1 energy slot. Normally it's only available on a solar piece and it costs like 3 energy slots. So the fact that now I can double it up and it only costs 1 is fantastic. This is how I'm going to be able to spam my super pretty often. And then we also got Elemental Ordnance. Defeating combatant with a grenade spawns an elemental wall that matches your subclass energy type. Just like I said a second ago, grenades are pretty important for this build. It's how it's going to get my build started. So Elemental Ordnance is going to allow me to do that. On my gauntlets, we're using a minor intellect mod. We have Impact Induction. Causing damage with a melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown, pretty much further escalating that grenade spam for this build. Now we have Hand Cannon Loader. We're using Sunshot. Makes sense to use this. And then we got Elemental Light. Defeating a combatant with your super spawns an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type. Now I'm going to try and spam my super as much as possible. So as long as I'm getting kills with my super, once my super ends, I can pretty much pick it up. I have Font of Wisdom on, which is going to allow me to keep that cycle going of the super spam. On my chest piece, we're using a discipline mod. Now we're using Concussive Dampener and we're using Sniper Resist. You can use whatever you want here. I just threw them on, I don't know, just cause. Now we're also using Elemental Armaments. Weapon takedowns with a damage type that matches your subclass element have an escalating chance to spawn an elemental well. Sunshot and Cold Duello are both solar. I'm on Sunbreaker Titan. So using this is pretty much going to allow me to spawn more elemental wells just from the grenades and this now. So once I pick those up, I'm going to get Font of Wisdom activated. And then I also have Font of Might on, but we'll get to that in a second. Now onto my exotic piece of choice, the brand new exotic, the Path of Burning Steps. Now the armor perk that comes with this, the exotic perk, is called Firewalker. Solar final blows periodically grant you an escalating bonus to weapon damage. You're harder to slow or freeze with stasis, and when you break out, you take no damage from doing so, creating a burst of solar energy around yourself. Now that second part is more for PvP, I feel like. I guess a little bit in the Beyond Light campaign, but definitely more geared towards PvP. But that first part, solar final blows periodically grant you an escalating bonus to weapon damage. It says periodically, but pretty much every time you get a solar final blow, you're gonna get 1 stack of Firewalker. It goes up to ×4. And in case you're wondering, it does stack with Fonts of Might, so I guess we'll go over that real quick before I keep explaining the exotic. So Fonts of Might, picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type, grants a temporary bonus to weapon damage of that same elemental type. So if I have Firewalker active and then I pick up an elemental well, they stack and I can pretty much get like a pretty nice damage buff. I don't know the exact number. All I know is I was hitting around 1300 with Sunshot, and then once I had Font of Might active and I had Firewalker ×4, I was hitting about 2000, around 2000, nearly 2100 weapon damage. So that's a pretty nice buff in my opinion. But as for the exotic, now you notice it just says solar final blows. It does not say solar weapon final blows. It doesn't say solar ability final blows, just solar final blows. So as long as you're using grenades, you're using your melee, heavy, anything that does solar damage, you're going to proc Firewalker, which is going to give you that weapon damage buff. It is absolutely insane. I absolutely love this, and I'm pretty sure that second part for PvP is nice as well, but I don't play PvP. I don't make PvP builds. So anybody out there that likes to, you know, play a lot of PvP and is tired of getting frozen by stasis, I highly recommend this exotic. So let me just go over my mods really quick. We're using a minor strength mod. We got Absolution, reduces all ability cooldowns each time you pick up an orb of power. And then we also have Innervation, reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb of power. So pretty much anytime I pick up orbs of power is going to give me my ability cooldowns. On top of that, picking up elemental wells is going to give me my ability cooldowns back as well. And on my Titan mark, we're using a minor discipline mod. We're using double bomber mod, so reduces my grenade cooldown when I use my class ability. Pretty much popping my barricade is going to give me a nice little chunk of grenade energy. And then, like I said a little bit ago, I have Font of Wisdom on. Picking up an elemental well that matches your subclass energy type grants you a temporary significant increase in your intellect, improving the recharge rate of your super. Now I was told this is like getting +50 to your super, or +50 to your intellect rather. So the fact that I have 41, once I pick up an elemental well, this is pretty much going to jump to 91, thus allowing me to spam my super pretty often as long as I'm picking up orbs of power and I keep the chain going of picking up those elemental wells. It is a really nice feeling. So with this build, I have the super spam, I have grenade spam, I have a lot of weapon damage buff. So it's a pretty nice feeling build all around. And onto my Titan fashion, I actually like this fashion a lot. We're utilizing some of the Iron Banner sets. I use Transmog, and I actually really like this helmet. I think it fits with this theme well. We got some fur right here, and we got this little, like, I don't even know, this like floof little thing on the helmet. It looks like a knight, and I really like it. So if you guys want to know what the shaders are, actually I think it's 1 on every piece. Let's go down to the new little menu we got. So it is all vintage timber, and these are the little ornaments that I'm using. So if you guys want to pause the screen and look at it, feel free to do so. Now, before anybody says it in my comment section, I intentionally did not use Wrath of Rasputin or any other Warmind Cell mods. Personally, I think Warmind Cells are boring. I'm not saying that they're bad. They are actually some of the best mods, if not the best mods in the game for ad clear and just some of the harder content in the game. But I think that they're too good. That's why I don't use them. They are too good. I want to be the one that's running around killing everything with my guns, with my abilities, and my super. I don't want to have a Warmind Cell just spawn, me shoot it, it blows up and just kills everything and like pretty much across the entire map. That to me is just not fun, right? And video games are about having fun. I like to run around, have my builds get going, you know, use my guns, use my abilities, use my super to kill the enemies, proc all these different buffs that get going, and to me that's what's fun, not just killing a couple enemies, having Warmind Cell pop up, me shooting it, and then all the enemies die. In my opinion, that's very boring, although very effective. But if you did want to use a Warmind Cell mod, I'd probably switch it out for elemental armaments and just put in Wrath of Rasputin right there, because you're using your grenade a lot with this build to get a lot of the elemental wells plus your super, and then whenever you pick up those wells you get the weapon damage buff on top of the exotic that gives you the weapon damage buff. So I just switch out the elemental armaments for the Warmind Cell mods, but it's up to you. That's just what I would do if I was going to, but I don't like to do it, so I did not. So about this exotic, I think that the main reason why it's so appealing to me is that it is any solar damage kills, not necessarily weapons or abilities, just solar damage. So you can use solar weapons or you can use solar abilities. Now obviously the best synergy would be to use solar weapons and a solar subclass, so using one of the Sunbreaker skill trees and then using something like Sunshot like I'm doing in this video, or dare I say you can use Skyburner Zoes, but no, I'm just playing. You can use like anything else, Xenophage, Heir Apparent, and there's probably some other, Lord of Wolves is a good one. There's so many other solar options, but Sunshot was the one I went with. But then again, you can use a Stasis subclass, you can use an Arc subclass, you can use any subclass really and still get that weapon damage buff. But for this build specifically, I actually really liked it with the solar subclass and the solar weapons, because I didn't feel like I had to really change my playstyle for anything. The only thing I had to add on was going actually picking up those elemental wells. But as for the way I played, I just killed enemies, I used my abilities, I used my super, and everything was synergizing together, everything was chained together, and it felt great. And I went to my sun spots, I got Sun Warrior, I was able to get my abilities back faster, get the damage buff from Sun Warrior, on top of the damage buff from the boots, on top of the damage buff from the elemental wells. So it's a very nice feeling build. I really enjoy when I create builds that don't require me to change the way I play, although those can be fun. I feel like these type of builds are just easier to use in most activities and easier to get away with, because you don't want to have to then run around and, let's say, for example, not saying it's a bad thing, but having to go pick up the diamond lance, or having to then use your grenade to then throw the bleak watcher aspect, or anything else. I don't know, thunder crash with the new titan exotic that does crazy damage, right? You're kind of building around these super, you use your super to destroy a boss, and it's rinse and repeat. But with this build, you're just playing how you play, picking up the elemental wells, using your super, using your abilities, getting the damage buff from everywhere, from the elemental wells and the exotics. So it's a very nice feeling build, very smooth, doesn't require a lot of change to your playstyle. I highly recommend you guys get this exotic, because not only is it good in PvE, it is also good in PvP, because if you hate stasis, this is the exotic for you. So go ahead and get it, and hope you guys stick around for more content. But if you guys like this content, please like, subscribe, and share. It truly helps me out a lot. You can also check out my other videos, links are in the description below. I have a lot of crazy builds, so go ahead and check that out. And you might as well follow my social media. I have a Twitter and Instagram and a TikTok, both or all three of them at @fat_balloonskis. But with all that being said, deuces.